Thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate you taking time out of your day to be with us. Just a couple of reminders and notes before we get going here. For our photographers in the room, when Scott Strickland announces Coach Golden, there will be a photo op up here, so be aware of that. For our members of press, please raise your hand and use the microphone. When the Q&A portion arrives, we are providing a transcript of this, so it's to everybody's benefit. If you can use the microphone for us, that'd be great. If you can identify yourself, question and follow up, and if there's time, we'll come around for more questions beyond that. Following the press conference, Scott Strickland and Coach Golden will be available on the side for some Q&A and some meet and greet with you folks, so be ready for that. Also, just a reminder to silence your cell phones and other devices. And with that, we'll get going. Scott.
Thank you, Denver. I want to thank everyone for being here on this special day where we get a chance to welcome Todd and Megan and Jacob and Madison into the Gator family. Before I begin with my remarks about Todd, I want to thank some people at the UAA and beyond that were a part of this process and really helped us land in where we are today. I had three people who joined me during interviews as we talked to various candidates. Linda Tiedler, who's our Executive Associate Athletic Director and our men's basketball sport administrator. She serves on the Division I Council and just is a general superstar. So Linda, great work and thank you. Chip Howard, another Executive Associate Athletic Director who has been around this place for over 3 decades and knows UAA so incredibly well and provides a lot of insight. And Duke Werner, who's the Associate Athletic Director for sports medicine and has been embedded in the men's basketball program for several years. Duke was an unbelievable resource as well. Really appreciate that. Had so many other people who contributed: Denver Parler, Ryan Dunn, Jay Jacobs, Steve McLean. People we reached out to who were a great resource. Coach Billy Donovan, whose dad, Mr. Bill, is here. Thank you, Mr. Donovan, for being here today. Great to see you. From the SEC office, Dan Leibowitz, who's the men's basketball contact there. Mike Tranghese, former commissioner of the Big East, who's a consultant with the SEC, was also a great resource. Appreciate all those people and so many more who helped with this process. The University Athletic Association aspires to provide a championship experience with integrity in all that we do. Doing things the right way is imperative, and at Florida, it's been demonstrated you can do that while achieving at a high level. The Gator men's basketball program has exemplified this approach. Since 1989, the Gators have won 7 SEC championships and have appeared in 21 NCAA tournaments, 9 Elite Eights, 5 Final Fours, and of course, we've won 2 national championships. Athletic directors never look forward to conducting a coaching search, but the reality is you always need to be prepared. Once Coach White shared with me his decision a week ago this past Sunday, I immediately met with our players, and then our search process hit high gear. I also like to thank Mike and his family, Kira and their kids, for all the efforts they put in here in Gainesville the last 7 years. As you all know, Mike is a class guy, and we certainly wish he and his family the very best. But back to our search, we spoke to an overwhelming number of people in and around the sport of basketball. In those conversations, whether it was someone in the NBA or someone in college basketball, Todd's name kept coming up. And as we started looking at metrics and rankings and net and all that stuff, Todd's teams kept showing up. So early on, Todd was someone that we developed a high level of interest in talking to. There's 4 things that we value in a head coach: strong character and integrity, that's a given. The ability to bring highly talented people together, whether that's players or coaches or staff. The ability to develop a strong culture and lead that group of people. And the ability to put that team in a position to have a strategic advantage and be successful. Todd checked all these boxes and so many more. He was a former college walk-on, played for a highly respected coach at St. Mary's, and ended up starting on 2 NCAA tournament teams. After a brief professional career overseas, came back to work in America in a corporate sales job before turning to coaching. He's coached in a variety of conferences, really varied, from the SEC to the Ivy League, of course the West Coast Conference, where he's been at the University of San Francisco the last 3 years as their head coach, and of course led the Dons to their first NCAA tournament appearance in a quarter century. As everyone is aware, there were no shortage of job openings at high major schools during this recent coaching cycle, including several in the SEC. One thing I'd like to share with Gator Nation, all the fans listening out there, because I think it's important, Todd wanted to be a Florida Gator. This was a place that he valued as much as we valued him. And he shares our goals and our aspirations to win championships at the University of Florida. Todd has so many outstanding qualities that make him an ideal person for this position. He's a forward-thinking guy with a detailed, analytical plan for all areas of his program. He's bright, engaging, has a magnetic personality that connects with players, recruits, and fans alike. He displays an incredible drive and work ethic that we've had a chance to see firsthand here in the last 48 hours or so. And most importantly, as I said earlier about what's important for us, he's a man of high character and integrity. To put it simply, because of his passion, intellect, and innovation, Todd Golden already is where the sport of college basketball is heading. And for the Gators, that future is now. If you would, help me welcome the head basketball coach at the University of Florida, Todd Golden.
Thank you, Scott. Before I get started, really important for me, I want to thank Father Paul Fitzgerald, Charlie Cross, and my former athletic director, Joe McDermott from the University of San Francisco. We just finished 6 years there, 3 as the head coach, and for Megan and I, it was the best 6 years of our life. We had the opportunity to raise our family there. Jake and Maddie joined our family there, and I'll never forget the relationships that we made, and more importantly, the history that we made on the court by getting back, as Scott mentioned, the NCAA Tournament for the first time in 25 years. I'm grateful for the time there, and we'll never forget it. Now, as we begin the next chapter of our lives, it's really important to me to thank Dr. Fox, obviously Scott, and his team of Linda, Chip, and Duke, who allowed me the opportunity to join you guys here today. I really appreciate you guys for your belief in me, and I will not let you down. The University of Florida and the city of Gainesville are both incredibly special places. I've made a concerted effort over my first few days on the job to reach out and connect with former coaches and former players who have been a part of this storied program. To a man, they've all shared the same message. This amazing place has allowed them different life experiences that would not be possible without the time that they've spent on this campus. There's a level of pride that these individuals have and that this university has that's unique and inspiring. It's a powerful reminder of just how special this university is and that this city is. As we all know, this program, the University of Florida men's basketball program, has championship pedigree. If you think about it, over the last 32 years, it's only had 3 coaches. Coach Kruger, Coach Donovan, and Coach White have all done a great job of leading this program with great student athletes and a lot of success on the court. Since 2000, University of Florida Gators men's basketball players have made over $1 billion in the NBA. We have everything we need here to compete at the championship level. I spent time in the iconic O-Dome last night, was blown away to see the renovations inside the Exact Tech Arena, that were in 2016, basically the year after I left Auburn. We have the $25 million Hawkins Center that was opened in 2016 as well that helps student athletes from a development and a personal standpoint. Academically, the University of Florida is a top 5 public institution in the country. Over 415,000 alums and incredibly strong student support from the Rowdy Reptiles. We're a Jordan brand school. It's just amazing. It's amazing. I can go on and on and on. President Fox and Scott, your team has done an incredible job of ensuring that this program has everything that it needs to compete at a championship level. I know some people are a little unfamiliar with me and my background, so I wanted to share a little bit about myself. As Scott mentioned, I have a beautiful wife, Megan, who has given me the opportunity to be a really successful coach for everything that she does for our family. 2 beautiful kids that she gave us in Jake and Maddie. My parents, Scott and Gail Golden, are here, and Megan's parents, Mick and Joanna York. They're the foundation of everything that we do and give me the confidence to go out and work hard to be the coach that I am. If it weren't for you guys, we wouldn't be here today, and I'm very grateful for you for that. As for my journey in basketball, as both a player and as a coach, it started in high school for me. I was incredibly fortunate to play in Phoenix, Arizona at Sunny Slope High School for Dan Mannix, who is now in the Arizona State High School Hall of Fame. He's won over 600 games. We won a state championship there. And he's retired now. And, he taught me a lot about toughness, desire, determination, and really just formed my love of the game. And then that led me to my time at St. Mary's College, being able to play for Randy Bennett and Kyle Smith. And I learned a lot about physical and mental toughness there and really cut my teeth. And they helped form me into the man I am today. At one point in my career at St. Mary's, I was fortunate enough to play for a staff that ended up having 5 Division I head coaches. So I've always been surrounded by really, really good coaches, good leadership, guys that understand what it takes to win. During my coaching career, I've had similarly unique experiences, getting to work for Kyle at Columbia to start, obviously coming down here to the South and spending 2 years with Bruce as we were on the ground floor getting that program up and running. Both guys are on incredibly different sides of the spectrum in terms of who they are and the way they coach, but they're both incredibly unique in their own right. I learned from Kyle structure, organization, and attention to detail. From Bruce, I learned about passion, how to build a program, servant leadership, and just overall excitement and how to galvanize a group for the greater good. What I try to do as a coach is take the best qualities of Kyle, take the best qualities of Bruce, and the best qualities of myself, put them in a pot and stir it up. And I feel if I can continue to do that over my career, I'll continue to have a lot of success as a coach. A lot of people have asked me, what do you expect to see, or what type of teams should they expect to see when the Gators take the floor next year? I try to explain it. You should expect to see a big, strong, deep roster that has a lot of skilled and unselfish players that are willing to put the team in front of themselves. Foundationally, we will always strive to be elite in 3 areas: defensively, rebounding, and taking care of the basketball. If we're able to do that, it'll raise our floor and give us a great chance to be really successful and eliminate any unnecessary volatility that we might have. Offensively, we're going to play fast, but not in a hurry. We're going to try to push in transition, score early in the clock, hunt rim 2s, catch and shoot 3s. If we don't score in transition, we're going to slow it down, make you guard us in the half court, make you guard continuous player and ball movement, unique ball screen actions, and different things that I think are incredibly difficult to scout. And then when people ask, what are you going to see on the defensive side of the ball? Really, we're going to try to keep teams from doing those things. We're going to try to keep them out of transition, make them run offense in the half court, make them take tough 2s overhand, and just have an incredibly gritty style to us defensively where teams won't want to face us. When you see the type of personnel that we have, you're going to realize that we're going to lean in a lot on skill. Very rarely will we have any less than 4 guys on the court that can dribble, pass, and shoot at an insanely high level. Moving forward, this program, and I talked to the student athletes about this when we got here on Monday night, this program is going to be rooted in 3 core values. Number 1, we're going to have the team first. Every decision that me, my staff, and our student athletes make is going to be for the greater good of the program and the team. Unselfishness is key to me. Secondly, and this one's pretty simple, but I expect our guys to be prepared and work hard. And that's just not from a basketball standpoint or a weightlifting standpoint. That's from an academic standpoint. That's from going out into the community and being with people. I expect us to be prepared and always ready for the challenge. And lastly, I expect my student athletes as well as my staff to have an attitude of appreciation. This is one of the best programs in the country. This is one of the best institutions in the country. We have everything we need here, and I won't take anything less than guys being super grateful for being a part of it. Off the court, I'm committed to rebuilding the foundation of this program from the ground up, going out in the community, building relationships with the necessary folks, the donors, the alums, the people in the city of Gainesville, and just getting the excitement back in the program. I can't wait to see the passion of the Rowdies at the games. We'll have a lot of pride wearing the orange and blue. And I can say from the bottom of my heart that I'm incredibly proud to be a Gator. Thank you.
Yeah, Todd, Edgar Thompson with the Orlando Sentinel. So you touched on the identity of what a Todd Golden team is. How do you go about recruiting to that? What's your philosophy there?
It's you recruit to what you want to coach. You know, we're going to look for really smart, motivated student athletes, obviously high-level basketball players, guys that have great attitudes, great work ethics. Most importantly, really want to be at the University of Florida. I can't speak to that enough. Obviously, I want guys to come play for me and my staff, but I want them to be passionate about being here, about making this place great. And so we're going to go out on the trail and tirelessly look for guys that fit that mold. We're going to try to recruit the best. We're going to go for the best players in the country. We're going to try to build a fence around the state of Florida, make sure that we're involved with every great student athlete within this footprint. And then we'll go regionally, we'll look internationally, we'll look in the portal, we'll do everything that we need to do. But the main key is recruiting highly motivated student athletes that are great basketball players that are passionate and prideful for being here at the University of Florida.
Well, the international component is kind of intriguing with you. You've mined that pretty well. Can you just discuss kind of how you go about that and some of the ties you have around the world, I guess?
Yeah, you know, it's something that at this University of San Francisco was a really, really good piece for us. And we were able to build relationships all through Europe, Australia, and there's a lot of talented kids over there. And transparently, not a lot of them have come to the SEC yet. You see them in different leagues across the country, some on the West Coast. And I think it's an area that we can go and attack and bring some really talented kids over here.
Todd, at San Francisco, you used a lot of international players, as you just mentioned. Does that influence come from Randy Bennett, who always seems to have a roster that's about 8 of them from Australia and New Zealand?
Yeah. Randy was pretty picky about only going over to Australia, and so I tried to go and spend a little more time in Europe and find my way over there. But yeah, I mean, just my time as a player, I played with a ton of international kids. Obviously, playing overseas over there, building a lot of great relationships. Even at Columbia, we had international guys, and so over the past 20 years, I feel pretty fortunate to have been able to build a lot of relationships. And one of the most, important guys in regards to evaluating some of these young student athletes is the University of Florida alum, Jonathan Gavoni, one of the NBA guys that does all the draft stuff for ESPN. So there's a lot of great ties that we have here that I think it's going to be an area that we can draw to.
Also, would you discuss how you got so involved in analytics? It's been well written that you're very heavily regarded into it. Would you talk about how you got involved in it and how that has evolved?
Sure. It started when I was a young kid. My father was passionate about sports, always had the sports page at the kitchen table, eating breakfast every day. And so I would go through and looking at box scores and kind of fell in love with looking at numbers and kind of followed that throughout high school. But it really was at St. Mary's. And Randy and Kyle back in 2003, 2004 were kind of on the cutting edge of analytics all the way back then, in regards to collecting data in a different way to evaluate guys. One of the things that they did was create a system called Hustle Stats, where we statted every possession of 5-on-5 in practice, and there was about 40 stats that they would keep, tracking winning plays and losing plays, and using it as a teaching tool for our team and pairing it with film. And to be honest, if it weren't for that foundation and that system at St. Mary's, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have played as much as I did. It gave me an opportunity to break into the rotation as a walk-on. And, I saw what it did for me and the opportunities that it provided me and thought that it would be silly if I didn't take advantage of that as a coach.
Mike Bianchi, Orlando Sentinel. To follow up on that, I read somewhere when you were playing at St. Mary's, you would add up plus minuses in your head. How did that work?
Yeah, Kyle Smith, who I've worked for a couple times and obviously played for, he was the associate head coach at St. Mary's at the time. You know, by my 5th year there, I had memorized all the stats that they kept in practice, and there was 40 of them. It wasn't just like shooting stats. It was like, you know, penetrating and pitching the ball. It was missed rotations. It was blow by middles defensively, et cetera. And so I was getting a little cocky in my older age and having a little more success at an NBA point guard standing next to me in Patty Mills. And so there would be times in practice where I would call out the different numbers and plays and what was going on. And Kyle would get a little frustrated with me. But, it was a way of me explaining to him how much I appreciated what we were doing, and to the other guys that were younger than I was, how important it was to our success.
Also, follow up, when you were in corporate sales, where did you work? What did you sell? Did you learn anything about coaching?
Yeah, I was, my first job after playing professionally was at IMG College, working in the college sports marketing arm. I was selling advertising for the West Coast Conference, really around their West Coast Conference championship that had just been moved to Vegas. So I worked with the people above me on deals like Zappos.com, Las Vegas, with signage and, digital assets and all those things. And that was kind of my first part in the business world. Then I moved over to Comcast Sportsnet, and we had all the digital and TV rights for the Giants, the Oakland Athletics, Niners, Golden State Warriors. So we would sell advertising into those games, into their pre- and post-game programming and everything like that. And, Scott and I, we joked about it a lot in the process, talked about those times. And I had fun. I was making a good amount of money, but I realized really quick after moving over to Comcast that I didn't want to come to work in a suit and tie every day selling advertising. And it gave me kind of the jolt I needed to get back into basketball and into coaching.
Hey, Todd. Zach Appleverdi from Gators Online. Nice to meet you. You mentioned your experience with Bruce Pearl, specifically being in the SEC. What was it like just coaching and recruiting in this league, and what can you take from that experience?
You know what? It was a great learning experience. I came to Auburn from Columbia. And so we were working with, it was a low major program with incredibly intelligent student athletes, not a lot of resources, trying to navigate through different situations in the best way possible. And then, moved down with Bruce to Auburn. It was a completely different ballgame. It was going from a low major situation to a high major, what I consider nearly professional athletics in regards to the way that it supported the resources. And it took me a little bit to figure it out and to get comfortable. But by my second year down there with him, I felt great about going out on the road and pitching the SEC, pitching Auburn at that time, what we had going on and what we were going to grow to. And really, those 2 years made me very comfortable in the process with Scott, Linda, and Chip, and Duke of talking about what we could do here and different things that we could take from the first couple years building that program up and what we could transition here and build in a similar way. But it was a great experience that made me a more complete coach.
And then I heard you had a chance to talk with Billy Donovan. What was it like, first of all, just getting to speak with him? And
Sorry, talk to who?
Billy Donovan.
I couldn't hear you.
And then what was it like getting a chance to have a conversation with a coach like that, first of all, and what kind of advice did he have for you about this job?
Yeah, it's funny how things come full circle, because Coach Donovan's 2 championships were during my time as a player at St. Mary's. So obviously I was following those games and those teams very closely. Incredible job by him, first of all, to get that team back for the second year, get these guys to again, like similar to what we talked about, putting the team first. Those guys turned down a lot of money to come back and do it again together here at Florida. And, I was able to talk to Coach Donovan last Saturday for about 30 minutes. And it gave me goosebumps, really, the whole time we were chatting, because he was so unselfish, so willing to be a resource to me, said he was willing to help as much or as little as possible. Talked about how passionate him and his family were about Gainesville and how big of a part that this place played in his life, his family's life, the maturation of his kids. And, he considers this place home, and it's really important to him that this place is great. And, he said, you don't have to worry about me. I said, Coach, I'm going to be calling you a lot. Don't worry. I want to pick his brain. I want him to be a big resource for me. He's a guy I look up to, both from a coaching standpoint, but also as a man. Everything I hear about others is how great of a person he is. I got a chance to meet him a couple years ago when they practiced in our gym at San Francisco. And, I'm going to strive to have the same amount of success and to lead in a similar way that Coach Donovan did.
Coach, right here.
Hey.
Kendra Douglas with WESH 2 in Orlando. you're growing fast in this industry and coming out to the SEC at a pretty young coach. Do you think that you can use that to your advantage of relating to these athletes a little bit more, growing that bond with them a little bit more? And can you talk a little bit about how you hope to do that, hope to gain their trust a little faster? Because I know that they would love to get back to the NCAA tournament and kind of falling into that. Do you have pressure of making sure, or is there pressure on your end of feeling like you need to get them back to that next year?
I'll answer your first couple questions first. I think it's an advantage, to be honest. In a couple respects. Number one, from my ability to build relationships with the student athletes. That was just something that myself and my staff spent a lot of time on at San Francisco, getting in the weeds with these guys, making sure that our relationships weren't transactional. I wanted them to know that we were obviously there for them, and we were going to ask a lot of them on the court. But really, you build that trust off the court. It's spending time with them, eating dinner with them, going to breakfast, getting meals, making sure you know who their girlfriends are, what their social lives are like, what kind of music they like to listen to. And when you build those types of relationships, that's when you get guys to play hard for you. That's when you get them to play at their best. And, we've been able to do that at San Francisco. I had the opportunity to meet some of these guys on Monday night, and I have no reason to believe we won't be able to do this here. Coach White was able to recruit really talented, really smart student athletes, guys that were high achievers. And those are the type of guys that I'm drawn to. So I think we're going to have a really easy transition that way. Secondly, from a recruiting standpoint, I think, we'll be able to go out, hit the road running, spend a lot of time on the road here initially, making sure that we do what we need to do to make sure we have a strong team next year. And again, I listen to the same music that these guys listen to. I'm listening to Lil Baby, I'm listening to Drake, I'm listening to Wayne, all these guys. So we're going to be able to vibe pretty well, and I think that we're going to have a really good time together.
Yeah, right here, Todd.
Hey.
So the Rowdy Reptiles have a pretty good reputation, bring a lot of energy to games. How do you plan to reach out and connect with the fan base, the students particularly, and just energize the program that way? Yeah,
it's we had a good blueprint at San Francisco. Basketball on the West Coast is a little different. There's not as much passion in terms of the fan base. San Francisco is a very artsy city. There's not a lot of kids that are. There's no football Saturdays in the WCC, I'll just put it that way. But we were able to, for my first year, where we had very minimal students coming to the games, to this year after COVID and getting through that piece, to being able to go out on campus and really galvanize the students, to get them on board and get them supporting, to the point where we played Gonzaga in our last home game of the regular season. We had over 1,300 students there. And that was something that hasn't happened at San Francisco since the early 70s. And so already having the great foundation here with the Rowdies in terms of them. I remember when we played here in 2015, when we came down with Auburn, one of the things that I'll never forget is going out on the court, getting ready to warm up the guys about 60 minutes before the game, and basically the student section was already packed. That was unlike any other place in the SEC. And, so what will we do? We'll go out and get with them. We'll spend time with them. I'll bring them over to the gym before the season starts, kind of explain to them what we're going to be like, our team. We'll get on campus. We'll pass things out. But that's a big part of what I plan to do. And the great thing is that a lot of that heavy lifting is already done. Those students are already passionate about supporting their student athletes.
Do you, as a coach with, let's say, not vast head coaching experience, do you see value, or how do we get a veteran assistant? Did you do that in the past, or is that something you see some value in going forward?
I'm very confident in my abilities to lead a program. I think what I'm going to do is go out and I'm going to hire the best staff I can, and whether that's somebody that has head coaching experience or not, I'm going to get experienced guys that have been able to be successful in their different programs over the years, and we're going to get guys that are really hungry to recruit, guys that are really hungry to get in the weeds with these guys from a player development standpoint and a team standpoint, and most importantly, get guys that are good men and that are great role models for these guys, so that they can look up to them as more than just coaches, guys that are leaders, fathers, etc.
I didn't mean that as a slight. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
The other, I had to ask, do you know Bill Russell at all?
Do I know Bill Russell at all?
Have you talked to him?
You know what? It was a strange situation, but he had a little bit of a funky relationship with the university. So not Bill Russell as much, but Bill Cartwright, who obviously had a great career in the NBA, 3 championships as a player, 3 championships as a coach, was my special assistant at San Francisco. And he was a guy that would come to practice nearly every day. And Bill he would always give me a similar message that Coach Donovan did. He was like, I'll be here to support as much or as little as you need me. And over the 3 years in my head coaching there at San Francisco, he was nothing but incredibly supportive. And he actually sent me a really nice message and said, hey, Todd, you've earned this opportunity. Go crush it. And he was really, really happy for Megan and I.
Todd, you've talked before about the portal is here to stay. Would you talk about how that has changed recruiting already and how you see it changing in the future, continuing to change things?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different element, right? You know, in the past, programs have generally been built from a student-athlete perspective from the ground up, you know, recruiting a lot of high school kids and developing and growing through the bottom of the program and trying to get them through to graduation. And it's just changed that way. And I think a lot of it is to the benefit of the student-athlete, which is good in regards to having a little more freedom and flexibility, the one-time transfer exception, you know, being able to move a little bit. But with that freedom, with that student-athlete welfare piece, the portal is even more important. And I think the recruiting landscape has changed more in the last 2 years than it had in the previous 20. I've said that a number of times. And, you know, it's a very important piece. It's a place where you can go and get more data on guys that have played at the Division I level before and be able to have a better understanding of how they can help you at your program. And, you know, we won't be a strictly portal program. It's not something we're going to go and say, oh, we're only going to hunt and find guys here, but it's just going to be a piece of our program building for sure.
When you're recruiting in the portal, what are you looking for specifically?
Really good players. Yeah, I mean, guys that have achieved at a high level in their previous spot. And, you know, there's usually a lot of variables and different things that go into these decisions, whether it was a coach leaving, whether it was, you know, just an uncomfortable situation, whatever it is. So there's a lot of guys in the portal. You know, I'll put it this way. In the past, transferring has had a negative connotation. People have thought of transferring as something that's negative. It speaks to lack of continuity within the program, things of that nature. I don't look at it that way. You know, I think these guys are young men. They're allowed to make, you know, decisions like this. And so we're going to vet them the same way that we would vet high school kids. We're going to talk to them. We're going to talk to their families, you know, if they're transferring, usually former coaches, to see if there's a reason. But you can find a lot of special kids, student athletes in the portal that can fit within the makeup of your program if you look hard.
Curtis Michaud with ESPN Gainesville. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great.
First
Thank
question is, under Bruce Pearl, Coach, I'm pretty sure you learned a lot of things. What are some things you learned under him?
You know what? I knew Bruce quite well before joining him. I played with his son Steven in 2005 in a Maccabi games in Australia, and Bruce came out and worked with our team a little bit. And then in 2009, Bruce coached our team in Israel to a gold medal, and it was really there where him and I formed like a really strong bond and trust. And just so happened 5 years later, you know, he got back in and got the job at Auburn, and he reached out and wanted me to come and build the program with him from the ground up. And first of all, his work ethic is second to none. I remember from the time I got down to Auburn with him, he just didn't sleep. You know, we were living in the same little apartment for a couple months, and I remember every morning at 5, he'd be getting up, going to the office, and that work ethic was something that I was just so inspired by, and he led the charge. If you weren't keeping up with him, you felt like you weren't doing your job. And so that's something that I've always taken with me, is that dedication to the craft, that working really hard. And also the player relationship piece, like we've talked about a lot today. You know, he was really good at getting guys to play incredibly hard for him and love and trust. And I think that's something that I was able to take with me to San Francisco and really emulate and do a really good job that way as well. And I'm 100% going to do the same thing here at Florida.
And also, Coach, you mentioned about your game plan, offensively and defensively, Coach. I'm not sure if you looked over game film from this past season with the Gators. What are some things you feel like the Gators do on the roster now that you can like translate next year?
It's interesting. I'm not going to go into too much depth, but I think the two areas specifically that we're going to really strive to be better at next year is shooting the ball. The team, I think, was around 30.5% from the year on three, and just the way that I like to play, that's simply just not going to be good enough. We're going to have to go out and shoot the ball a little bit better to achieve the goals we want to achieve, and also defensive rebounding. You know, that was an area that was surprising to me when evaluating the team and the roster, that they didn't have a lot of success in, because I think the pieces are there and I think the talent is there in terms of being able to get on the glass. And I think if we can kind of lift those two areas up a couple pegs and stay and consistent and get a little better in other areas, we should be back in the tournament next year.
Hey, Todd, just a quick follow-up. I want to know how it felt to get verified this morning.
We went 0 for 1 on our first attempt because I woke up that next morning and said it wasn't good enough. So we had to go back and grind at it. But no, you know what? It's social media, I understand, is a really important piece right now with the student athletes and the kids, and it's something that we'll know about. But I really don't care, to be honest.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm sure you talked to Scott about this, but was there any trepidation on your part that your predecessor, Mike White, left on his own for a seemingly lesser job? Or is there any thought that expectations can be too high at a program?
Not at all. And what Scott said was 100% true. When this opportunity became available, this was where Megan and I wanted to be. And not saying that we thought or knew that we could be here, but just from my time here, loving and following college sports for nearly 30 years, whether it's the orange and blue, whether it was the great success Coach Donovan had, this is just an incredibly special place that I've always held in an extremely high regard. So Coach White leaving, it didn't mean anything to me, to be honest. And I don't know what he was going through or what led him to that, but it didn't change the way I felt about this place at all. And honestly, at a place like this, they should have high expectations. Like I mentioned, there's everything you need here to be really, really good. And if they didn't have those championship aspirations and expectations, if Scott didn't want to do that, that would concern me. If he didn't think, hey, Todd, I expect you to compete to win SEC championships, to do those things. I just want you to be middle of the pack. That would have concerned me. I want those expectations, and we're going to do everything we can to get there. I thought we were talking tomorrow, man.
Coach, I've been studying this league a little bit now that I'm working with the SEC Network, and have seen that a few of the select coaches here, looking at Coach Musselman and Coach Bruce Pearl, they're often found with their shirts off, whether it's at football games, after big wins. Is that something in the golden era?
I'm keeping my shirt on, man. I'm not big enough to be doing all that, all right? We'll find some different ways to show our enthusiasm and excitement, but BP's crazy, man. He was going out with a big T on his chest. Should definitely not take his shirt off. And yeah, we're going to try to keep it a little cleaner than that. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.